if you're listening to this episode right now, I want you to pause for a second and ask yourself, why did I press play on this one? Out of every episode in the feed, out of everything else you could be doing right now, why this episode or this podcast? And I don't think it's an accident. I think God nudged you here. Because today we're talking about something that so many women over 45, including yours truly, feel in their bones, but don't have any language for it. That restless feeling, sound familiar? That itch, that sense that something is shifting and it is not what your mama gave you. Something is ending and something is about to begin. And that is the glorious part of life. And you don't quite know what to call it. So you call it a midlife crisis, or you call it burnout, or you call it, I don't know what's wrong with me lately. That's where I was. Lovely, I'm here to tell you nothing is wrong with you. Something is happening for you in the ethers. Welcome to Bold, Fierce, Unstoppable Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Liotis. Today's episode is called 7 Signs that God is calling you into a new season. And by the end of this episode, you're going to know, not guess, not hope, but know in your heart and in your soul, what you've been feeling is God moving you into something new. Now, let's get down and dirty into it. Before I give you the 7 signs, I want to ground us in one verse, because this whole episode lives inside of it, or is of it, whatever you want to say about it. Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." Let's say that again in your spirit for a second. God isn't asking you for permission. He says, I am doing a new thing. It's in the present, and it's happening now. Not yesterday, not 3 years from now, now. And then he asks the question that I think is the whole point of today's episode. Do you not perceive it? That's the invitation. Can you perceive it? Can you see what God is already doing, even if the wilderness around you still looks like the wilderness, and even if the wasteland still looks dry? This is where a lot of people, including myself, want to give up. Because here's what I know to be true in my own life and in the lives of women I have guided through their journey. God rarely announces a new season with trumpet blasting, neon signs, firecrackers, and a band walking down the street. He announces it in your restlessness and your dissatisfaction, and tears and snot coming out of your nose, and really, you can't really explain it. The doors that quietly close and a longing that won't leave you alone. God made me really uncomfortable in doing exactly what I'm doing right now with clients and in having this conversation with you. He saved my voice box that I could have lost in cancer, but God told me in 1997, during my fight with thyroid cancer, He had bigger things for me. That felt scary for the 25-year-old self, in more ways than I can or want to remember. I had to overcome cancer, the old me that loved to party, drink, drugs, and sex. Okay, that was the old me. Don't judge me, okay? I was a club promoter and so much more that was so out of alignment with my truth. But here we are. God is using me in my assignment to steward other women like you to realize we can go through the wilderness of depression, cancer, suicide, but God is utilizing you and me in more ways than we can basically understand. I opened a colon hydrotherapy business. Within 5 years, what had happened to me was something that made me research myself to see if I had a bad name in the business. I had people render services, pay for it in cash in advance, and not even show up. I was confused, crying for weeks, wondering what was happening. What I learned in that time was God had different plans for me. Plans I basically didn't ask for. I got this hair here driving me crazy. So let's walk through these 7 signs together. So grab something to write with, because I promise you at least one of these is going to hit you in your third eye. The first sign is this: things that used to fulfill you, they really don't anymore. And it's not because you're ungrateful. It's not because you're greedy for more. It's because you've outgrown the season. And maybe it's the job that used to feel like purpose and now feels like a cage. Maybe it's the routine, the relationship, the roles you've played for years: wife, mother, caretaker, the strong one. You know what I mean? That used to feel like identity and now feels like a costume that doesn't fit anymore. I call this holy discontent, because it's not the enemy stirring up ingratitude in you. It's the Holy Spirit stirring up hunger in you. Yes, girl, there's a difference. Discontent from the enemy makes you bitter. Holy disconnect from God makes you hungry for more of Him and more of who made you to be. This is exactly what I was speaking about previously. My colon hydrotherapy clinic was my happy place. I was successful, financially stable, made more money than I've ever made in any career I had. I loved my clients. My job description may have been weird to some, but when you lose a father to colon cancer, you don't want anyone else to experience the pain and the agony. That was my why I loved what I did so much. I was helping people get back their health. At the same time, I was calling God in every session to guide me to help people. Personally, I didn't think I'd be doing this right now. If you're sitting there right now going, that's me, that's exactly what I'm feeling, that's the first sign. And that's the first thing that you definitely need to recognize. So I hope that you see it in yourself, or maybe you don't. So let's move on to sign number 2. Doors are closing, yes. And I don't mean doors you're walking away from. I mean doors that are closing without your permission. We'll talk about that a little later. The friendships that quietly faded, the opportunity that fell through, even though you did everything right, the job that ended, the relationship that shifted, the plan that just flatlined, stopped working, no matter how hard you pushed. Here's what I need you to understand. God will close a door you're not brave enough to close yourself. Trust me. Sometimes we know a season is over, but we stay because we're afraid of the unknown. Afraid of disappointing people, afraid of who will be without that title or that relationship or that identity. So God in His mercy closes it for us. God makes our life so much easier, but we don't realize it. It doesn't feel like mercy in the moment. It feels like loss, and it feels like rejection. And nobody really likes rejection, but rejection is redirection. But closed doors are often a way of making room for new things. He already told you about in Isaiah 43:19. I am making a way in the wilderness. You can't walk into a new way while you're still standing in the old doorway, holding on for dear life. And that door to the colon hydrotherapy clinic closed tight. No one came back. Yet God was creating something else before I even knew it. And this is what brought me here today, was that phone call I received a month after my colonic doors shut. A call that God said, this is the work I want you to do. It's different than what I thought. So sign number 3, and I want to be really tender with this one. You are tired in a way that sleep does not touch. Boy, do I know that one. This isn't I need a nap tired. This is soul tired. This is what I would say my inner being is tired. You can sleep for 12 hours and wake up and still feel that same heaviness sitting on your chest. You know what I mean? That kind of exhaustion isn't a sign that something's wrong with your body. Although please go get your levels checked. Take care of your temple because you only have one. But spiritually, that kind of weariness is often the sign that you have been operating in a season, a role, or a way of being that was never sustainable long term. You were never meant to carry it forever. It had a start date and it has an end date. Which brings me to a verse I want to sit with for a second. Ecclesiastes 3:1. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. The word everything includes you, includes me. Your caretaking, your hustle, your grind, you're holding it all together, you're being needed by everyone and poured into by nobody. That had a season. And Ecclesiastes tells us plainly, every season ends, not because you failed or I failed, because it was never meant to be forever. Sis, if you've been dragging yourself through your days feeling like you're running on fumes with no explanation, that's not weakness. That might be God saying, this season has an expiration date, and I already know what's next. And God definitely knows what's next before we do. Just like He knew what was next from my colon hydrotherapy clinic, to my spiritual business, to what I'm doing today. So sign number 4 is one of my favorite because it's so clearly God's fingerprints. You keep hearing the same thing from completely unrelated places. A sermon touches on it, then a random conversation with a stranger touches on it, then a book falls into your lap off of the shelf, or a song comes on at exactly the right moment, or a stranger, your kids, your husband says something offhand that lands like a lightning bolt. None of these sources know each other. None of them planned it, and yet the message is the same. This is not coincidence, girlfriend. That's confirmation. That is God, not subtle. God is not subtle when He's serious about getting your attention. Trust me. He just doesn't usually use one megaphone. He uses an orchestra. I always say God uses an orchestra because my thick head won't absorb what He's saying to me. And a little bit here and a little bit there until the pattern becomes undeniable and you become fully aware of what's happening. So let's talk about the phone call I received from an old coworker asking me if I knew energy healing. I had no idea what she was asking me. All of a sudden, I started to see things, feel things. I was speaking to my friend like, what are you showing me, God? I don't understand. I was having 3 conversations, one with her, myself in disbelief, and with God speaking to her. By the end of the conversation, she asked me if I do readings. I asked her, what's a reading? She said, when you read my energy. I still didn't understand what she was saying. I told her, I'm not reading anything. God is telling me stuff that I'm relaying onto you. She was shocked. I had no idea about this language. She asked me how much was a session. I said, a session? I asked her, what do you mean? I was so oblivious to everything, but God really wasn't. And speaking about this right now, it just brings me back to that moment. And she asked me the cost of my service, and all of a sudden comes a number out of my mouth that shocked me to my core. She thought it was wonderful. I felt like a high-level employee receiving their compensation. This was my new income God had for me, and I still didn't understand really anything about it. One thing led to another, and I was the talk on many people's mouth. Not because I did anything, but because God created a path without me knowing what's next for me. And I still giggle today about this. When that starts happening to you, pay attention. Start writing down what you're hearing and where you're hearing it, where you'll be shocked at the pattern that truly emerges. I love that one. Now let's get to sign number 5. The labels you used to wear so comfortably suddenly feel like a costume that doesn't fit anymore. Maybe it's the strong one. Maybe it's the one who never asks for help. Maybe it's a job title, a marital role, a version of the good Christian woman that was really just people-pleasing, wearing a Bible verse as a disguise. Whatever it is, you find yourself performing it now instead of living it. And performing your identity is truly exhausting in a completely different way than sign number 3. That's not physical tiredness. It's the tiredness of being someone you're not anymore just because it's familiar. This is deeply connected to the coaching work I do with women in midlife. So many of you were handed an identity somewhere along your 20s, and you've been faithfully living inside of it for decades without ever asking, does this still fit the woman God has grown me into? A new season from God almost always requires laying down the old identity, because you cannot pour new wine in an old wineskin. The container has to change to hold really what's coming. This is when the old version of me had to die and a new emerged that brought me more than inner work of self-discovery. I wish to tell you that it was fast for me, but I'd be lying and it wasn't. I couldn't explain what I do as easy as it was to say I'm a colon hydrotherapist and nutritionist. People will tell me I'm psychic. I would cringe. Reiki, not there. I didn't approve of any of these worldly titles. That was not who I was in titles for those that are boxed. And I'm not boxed. I'm more than that in general. And so are you. The struggle started to surface. How do I explain to others what I do and stay true to me? I'm a messenger of God. This was something many didn't understand, but also came with a lot of other judgments from people until I got comfortable with myself once again, because you will never be comfortable. Sign number 6. There is a pull towards something new that you can't fully justify with logic. But you can't shake it either. We're such confusing people. Maybe it's a business idea. Maybe it's a ministry. Maybe it's a certification, a move, a relationship, a creative gift you buried years ago, but it wasn't practical. It doesn't make sense on paper. Your spreadsheet brain can't justify it, but your spirit keeps circling back to it in the quiet moments, in the shower, in the car, at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep. I've been there. Girlfriend, that pull is not random. I'm telling you, it's not random. God plants desire in us long before he opens the doors for them to show up. Sometimes years before. The pull you feel right now towards something that seems impractical or too late for you might actually be the seed of the very calling he's been preparing you since before you knew his name. This is where magic happens, the pull to create. In that space, I create things that didn't make sense. I help women through divorce. I've never been married. I ask God why he kept bringing me women in that space if I've never been married. He said, you don't need to be married to understand empowering yourself through God. You don't need to be married to stand up to what's been damaging your soul for decades for some women. No, you don't need to be married. You could be single and be damaged your soul by men, but we'll get further into this in another podcast about that. You don't need to be married to reach your hand out and pull another woman out of the wilderness, remove the dust off her shoulder, and put fight in her, God's power in her. You don't need to be married to do God's work. You just need to connect with God and He will guide you. This came with more scrutiny, no degrees, diplomas, and people start to slam what God has placed within you. Yes, I've been there. But like Daniel in the den with lions, you just need to keep your eye on God and remove the enemy from getting in your head through weak people. Yes, I said it, through weak people. Previously, I did a podcast that I didn't show my face. A membership site that is a collective of women to come together, retreats, a book, and an invitation to where I am today, right now, in front of you. And weird things are happening to my screen. And let me tell you about sign number 7. You find yourself craving something new. Even while you're terrified of it, right? Like you just have to push play, even if you don't lose the 10 pounds. That combination, desire and fear existing at the exact same time, is one of the clearest signs of a God-ordained new season. Because if you were purely your flesh chasing an escape, it would just feel like restlessness with no weight to it. But when God is the one calling you forward, there's almost always the holy tension of, I want this so badly. And this scares me to death, happening in the same breath. Oh, Lord, this brings back memories as I'm speaking to you. That tension is not a red flag. That tension is often the exact spot your faith gets to do its work. Just as I told you about my story and how God qualified me to do my work with women going through divorce, yet the enemy would find the week to try to take me out because I had no degrees. But I worked with a lot of people that had degrees. It makes sense, does it? God was calling me forward for so much, and this is why I'm here with you today. Because God's voice became the only voice I would listen to, and the rest I sent into Psalm 23. Yes, Psalm 23. We'll talk about that maybe on another show. So we've walked through all 7 signs. But I want to end this episode somewhere bigger than a checklist. Because I don't want you to walk away from this just feeling informed. I want you to walk away feeling transformed with a renewal of your mind. So let's go to the verse that I believe is the anchor of everything we've talked about today. Revelations 21 verse 5 says, He who has seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. Then he said, write this down, for those words are trustworthy and true. I want you to notice something with me. This verse doesn't say, I am making a few things new. It doesn't say, I am adding some things alongside the old. It says, I am making everything new. See, Revelation 21 is describing the ultimate final renewal. A new heaven, a new earth. The full and complete restoration of all things at the end of the age. This is bigger than your career change or your next chapter. This is God's ultimate promise that nothing broken stays broken forever. Amen to that. Nothing lost is lost forever, and nothing that has died stays dead. That's the scale we're talking about. But here's why I believe this verse belongs in an episode about your new season. The God who is going to make all things new at the end of time is the same God who is making things new in you right now, today, in this in-between season you are standing in the crossroads of your mind. See, Revelation 21 is the mountaintop, the finish line, the ultimate proof of God's character. And Isaiah 43:19, that new thing springing up, That's the same character of God showing up in your everyday wilderness right now. The full picture in Revelation 21 tells you that the small new thing happening in your life today isn't random. It's a preview. That phone call was a preview. It's the same author writing the same kind of story, just on a smaller scale, right in your own timeline. And notice something else. God tells John, write this down. For these words are trustworthy and true. He doesn't just want us to feel comfortable by the promise. He wants it documented. He wants it remembered. He wants you to feel it in your soul. He wants us to be able to go back and say, God told me he makes things new and he will fulfill to his word. Feel that in your soul, girl. I want to invite you to do the same thing. Write down what season you feel God's calling you out of. Write down what sense he's calling you into. Because on the days doubt creeps in, and it will, guarantee you, you'll have it in your own handwriting. God said he's making all things new. And these words are trustworthy and true. They are. That's why I'm here with you today. So let's bring this all together right now. Let's recap the 7 signs. There's a holy disconnect that what used to satisfy you, that's sign number 1. Sign number 2, doors are closing that you didn't close yourself. Full and hydrotherapy clinic. Sign number 3, you're exhausted in a way rest doesn't fix. Exhaustion. Sign number 4, you keep getting the same messages from different directions, different sources, and from all over the place. Sign number 5 is your old identity feels like a costume. And this is where I tell the woman, remove your mask. Sign number 6, you feel drawn to something you can't fully explain. Sign number 7, you're craving newness even though you're scared of it. Yes, you just get used to it. I'll tell you that right now. You just get used to it. So if even 3 or 4 of these are true for you right now, or even 2, I would say, I don't think that's a coincidence, and I don't think you should keep waiting for more proof. I think you already have your answer. God told us in Isaiah 43:19 that he is making a way in the wilderness. And I wish I knew this when I was going through depression. I had a relationship with God, but not to the word. I think life would have been a lot more different, right? He told us in Ecclesiastes 3:1 that everything has its season and seasons are allowed to end. And he told us in Revelations 21:5 that making things new isn't just something he does. It's really who God is. God, I love him. That's his nature. That's in his name. You're not falling apart, sis. You're being made new and brought together again from a different frequency and a different view. So now, if this episode spoke to you today, I want to hear about it. Leave a comment below and tell me where you are and what season you're in. Also, if you're standing in this new season and you know you can't walk it alone, that's exactly what the community is all about. The bold, fierce, unstoppable community is for you. Come find your people, come find your sisters who are walking through the exact same wilderness, watching God make the exact kind of way in the kingdom heiress. Until next time, lovely, keep walking, head up, spine straight, confidence in full mode. He's already making a way. And remember, you are bold, you are fierce, and with God, you are unstoppable. Bye for now.